And here we go. Spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Site Delta, we have the South Korean Terran player representing himself, but he is one of the best Terrans in the world. It is Cure. And spawning in the top left hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Brazilian Terran player, the orange Terran. It is Kelazhur. I am ready for it again. Kelazhur just having a surprisingly deep run here despite his opponents, despite his obstacles. He has gone far in this tournament. Can he go further though? Because a Titan stands before him. One of the best Terrans in the world, renowned for his TvP, but now here in a TvT instead. And I'm going to have to settle in for a long one because mech is a big possibility. Kelazhur, he's not afraid. He's not afraid to mech it up and to make it happen. So we may see that at some point in this series. I hope not every game. Fingers crossed. But now, do you have our SCVs about to pass here in the center of the map? No boops. Smooch. Both mineral walking across the map, unfortunately. Regardless, we're going to be scouting each other. We have double gas openers all around, so no one is opening up economically. So relatively safe openers here from Cure and from Kelazhur. Interesting. So the big difference here is that Cure does purposefully put his production further back. So the reason for this is in case we ended up with a tank drop opener, if there were tanks here or even a push from the natural, the production would be exposed, but it's a little bit further back, which means the production is safe against tank pushes. Kelazhur's is more exposed if a tank were here on the low ground at this third base. So that is the big difference here between our two players. Of course, this means that the wall is not a wall at the natural, so Kelazhur could try to make use of that. For now, though, he does have an SCV here to try and body block and tank some shots. Oh, and Kelazhur, he will delay the CC. A nice little win here for Kelazhur as he does race back home. Again, it may not seem too significant, but this is a mirror matchup, and your opponent has the same tools that you do, so any little advantage does go a big way. Behind this, we're getting into a Cyclone opener from Kelazhur, as to be expected. Cure is mixing it up a little bit more, though. Cure, he's going to be going straight into a Widow Mine. He has a Hellion as well, so a bit of a more defensive setup here with that mine. Cure supply blocked for a moment. Again, Kelazhur will be able to enjoy a bit of a faster CC. Of course, the Cyclone gives you defensive opportunities against something like a drop play, Banshee opener, additional Reapers as well. Reaper Hellion is quite common. Speaking of Reaper Hellion, again, Cure, he's situated here on top of the ramp with that mine. He's getting ready for his own drop play. So is Kelazhur. Medevacs are on the way, and drops will soon be upon us. Here we go. We have 4 Marines and a Cyclone. Sorry, 3 Marines, of Reaper and a Cyclone on the way. Meanwhile, Kelazhur sending everything across the map. Will he come across the drop? Uh-oh. It looks like they will miss each other, as we do have both players committing. Again, we do have that Widow Mine on top of the ramp, so Cure, he has a lot of potential with that mine. As hopefully the Reaper goes up the ramp first. Oh, and it does tank the shot, and here we go. Kelazhur, he breaks into the natural. At the same time, we have the drop into the main base, but Kelazhur, he has some reinforcements. He pulls the boys, he has the Cyclones, and he will force the pickup. Meanwhile, across the map, Kelazhur getting a lot of economic damage done, and he saves his own units. He gets 6 SCVs, and he gets the hell out of there at the same time. Oh, Cure loses his Cyclone, but he's getting workers. Oh my god. He is getting quite a lot of SCVs. 7 SCVs. Can he get an 8th? Up! 7 SCVs go down. To catch us up here, we have Kelazhur losing 7 workers and quite a lot of his army as well. Likewise, Cure losing 6 SCVs back at home, but now Cure is just turning the tables on Kelazhur. Kelazhur going for some lib harass, but can he hold on? Again, we barely have anything. But we're pushing in. The Raven, it can throw down an auto turret. Can push forward. Yeah, and we're going to need to pull the boys. Cyclone goes down for Diego. But the Marines are being forced back at the same time. This one lib going ham. 7 worker kills. Oh my god. 0 mining here in the main base. 8 worker kills for 1 liberator. 9. Oh, papi. Cure, he's racing back home. This one lib is the MVP. It's keeping Kelazhur in this, giving him a big lead. CC's thrown down on location. Oof, Cyclone goes down. That's actually a pretty big blow for Kelazhur. Oh, Kelazhur's overextending. He's going to lose both Vikings. Questionable move here from Kelazhur. Medevac's being hunted down as well. But Kelazhur, he had a really good moment here getting the economic lead, and he still has it, don't get me wrong, but has been a little bit wasteful. Losing Vikings is pretty brutal, especially in the TvT. Air control is so important. And Cure is enjoying a faster third. So even though Cure has lost a lot of workers, he has a third base that's getting up and running. It is mining. Now Cure is moving out. Kelazhur, if he had those 2 Vikings, he could fight for air control, but that's something he no longer has. Has to start from scratch. And Cure has a massive army. We do have interference matrix. Cure, he can disable. With these Ravens, yeah, he can bust up the ramp. Disables on both tanks. And Cure is going to be laying siege upon the natural base. The boys, they have to be pulled. Oof. But pulling boys against tanks, it's going to be brutal, and every SCV is going to go down. GG gets called. Cure takes game number 1. GG. Whew. A very chaotic game 1. A very chaotic game number 1, regardless. Cure does take it in the end. He was taking quite a lot of losses, and he was struggling to get damage done across the map, but he was able to build up his forces. He was able to get into that tank count a lot faster. Not just that, but he invested into that Raven, and the Raven, or the Ravens, did more than pay for themselves with those disables. And he just had the higher quality army overall, and yeah, Kelazhur was maybe just panicking a little bit towards the end. It was a very stressful situation. Very stressful game. And now we get into game number 2. Número 2. Here we go. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Oceanborn, we have the South Korean Terran player leading the series 1-0. Uno mas is all he needs. It is Cure. And spawning in the top left, we have his opponent. We have the Brazilian Terran player, the Orange Terran, down in the series, but looking to fight back. It is Kelazhur. Hello there. The gloves are off, the SCVs are moving out, and we have a proxy 2-racks upon us. Let's go. So a very aggressive opener here from Kelazhur. Not all in by any means, but very aggressive nonetheless. Reapers will be upon us, and they're going to be looking to pull Cure apart. Meanwhile, does Cure go... Oh, I was about to say, does he go for a double gas opener or a racks expand? It is a double gas opener out of Cure, which means he will be going for a faster factory, which means Cure is pretty well set up to defend. It all comes down to the execution, though. It all comes down to how he reacts, how he responds. how this works. There's going to be a couple of windows, a couple of moments where Kelazhur, where he has some power spikes, where he has like 2 Reapers and then after that 3 Reapers. And his goal is to dive on top of the first Reaper of his opponent and get a kill on that unit if possible. Likewise, Cure has to babysit his units as best he can and pull the boys to help buffer and support his Reaper. Just because, of course, he will have a Reaper disadvantage and he has to buy time long enough to get his Hellion out. Once the Hellion comes out, then we can defend. It's a game of survive until Hellion, basically. Likewise, Kelazhur can't afford to lose anything. He can't lose any of these Reapers. So the control is quite delicate. Okay, first Reaper does go in. Oh, Kelazhur does take an extra hit. Not a good start. He did take an extra hit to the face. Boys are being pulled. Cure's in position. And he's throwing down a factory in the main. Oh my god. A factory in the main of his opponent. Cure. Ay, ay, ay. Kelazhur trying to get some air control here. Trying to get some vision. Kelazhur as he tries to push in, but no, the Marine is out. Hellion is on the way. And Kelazhur is having a hard time finding any damage. Oh, it does get a Marine. But what are we making across the map? I kind of want like a Widow Mine and like an armory. Ay, ay, ay. But I'm sure it's just going to be Hellions. Yeah, there we go. Hellion in the main base of Kelazhur. The call is coming from inside the house. Ah. Not like this. As we now have the Hellion, we now have splash damage. Again, Kelazhur, he's not breaking through at all. Solid defense here from Cure. And a solid counter-offensive as well. He's slowly banking up those Hellions. At the same time, Kelazhur tries to break in once again, but the Concave, the second Hellion, soon to be a third Hellion as well. Cure has plenty to deal with this. He takes down a Reaper. And back at home, Kelazhur is attempting to transition. We're supply blocked. Uh-oh. Oh, that's brutal, actually. Big supply block is gonna die. He kills his own Marine. Cure killed his own Marine to make the Hellion. This is very late. This Hellion harass is very late, which means this won't do as much damage as I think he was hoping for it to do. Cyclone is already out. This should have already hit. This should have hit before the Cyclone. Speaking of, it's mech. Hellions. Oh my, this he's no! They're lining up! No! The boys, they line up. 7 workers go down. That's already worth it. And we're going to get even more. 9 SCVs. The factories have been scouted. Kelazhur's economy is in the dumpster. And he's trying to expand, but he is down almost 10 workers. As 9 SCVs went down. Back at home, Cure is preparing for the inevitable attack. We have a tank on the high ground. And we are making 2 Cyclones at a time. Kelazhur racing across the map. Gambling here with this push. Little does he know that there's a tank waiting for him. If there was a Cyclone, then maybe Kelazhur can push in. But with a tank, with a second tank on the way? Ay, ay, ay. Oof. First Cyclone goes down. A Cure will establish his base. At the same time, Reaper gets across the map. And a Kelazhur, he goes back home. Does turn around. He's going to try and go for a drop into the main. Again, there's just so much pressure on Kelazhur to somehow get damage done. To somehow pull this off. Oh, doesn't quite get the Raven. Almost did. It's almost a big pickoff. But yeah, from here, Curie's just getting further ahead. He's getting saturated on 2 bases. Likewise, so is Kelazhur. I did mention earlier that I expected mech at least once from Kelazhur, and hey, we got it. We got it in game 2. Did get it in the end. A couple of workers are going down. Nice little trade here for Kelazhur. Does get some SCVs. Rotates around. Hoping to catch the army here with these Cyclones. Oh, that Rack's taking a lot of hits. Kelazhur trying to rotate around, trying to catch Cure. As we go for the drop into the main. Oh, Cyclones at the natural are going to go down. All three of them go down. Again, Cyclones, they are glass. They're very fragile. Cyclones are very fragile units, and these tanks just went to town on them. Kelazhur are going to try and rotate around. Ugh. Cure's in position back at home. We're throwing down a third factory, third base on location. We're going to be able to find a spot here. Losing another Cyclone. Oh, once again. Once again, that Liberator from game 1 comes back in game 2, gets a couple of workers, 7 in total. So we drop into the main base, a bit of a Hail Mary play here from Kelazhur. He will lose one of those medevacs. Will lose the second medevac as well. A rough trade for Kelazhur. He's just bleeding out so much. I don't blame him. Again, there's just a lot of pressure on him, a lot of onus on Kelazhur to make something happen. He's desperate, but in this desperation, he's just losing too much. Hey, we'll find his tank. That's something. It's a couple of SCVs. Yo, can you get a Raven? Up! Gets a Raven! Loses a Cyclone in the process, but we're going to be coming in. No, don't go in, Papi. Oh, as we barely do escape. And Kelazhur, after all of the chaos, after all of the aggression, Kelazhur has taken an economic lead. Very similar to last game in a sense, but Cure has a massive army. Unlike Kelazhur, Cure has been trading efficiently and has been building up his tank count. Cure is up to 6 tanks. You can see the army tab here, or the units tab in top left. 9 Cyclones against 6 tanks and 21 Marines. Stim is done as well, alongside the Disable, Interference Matrix, but of course the Raven was sniped earlier. And the reality is that in a head-to-head fight, Cure wins. In a head-to-head fight, Cure will demolish Kelazhur's army. But Kelazhur, he knows this, and Kelazhur has to do everything he can to keep Cure at home. He has to keep him pinned back, keep him busy, while Kelazhur gets a better economy and gets into his own tank production. Kelazhur is making 4 tanks at a time. And the tanks are coming out. And I do think that Cure had a window. Cure had a big window where he could have A-moved. He could have moved out across the map and killed Kelazhur. But the tanks are coming out 4 at a time, and Kelazhur will now have a more fortified position. Which means we're getting into a longer game. The tanks have arrived. 3rd bases are fully saturated. 4th base is on the way. Kelazhur, he's in a way stabilized. After a very shaky game. it's been shaky, Papi. It's very shaky. Oh my god, that's a lot of starports. We have ship weapons on the way and 2 more starports for Cure. He's looking for air control. He wants it. Fusion core on the way. Now, this could be for Liberator range, or we could be spicy and go into BCs. There are reactors on these starports, so it is going to be for Libs. And Liberators are now in production. Meanwhile, Kelazhur back at home, just building up his mech army. He's got his own 4th in production, sensor tower, blue flame, vehicle weapons. Let's go. Mech versus Biotank. Now, of course, Cure will have the more maneuverable army. Will have drop potential. But more importantly, because of these Liberators, tanks are good and all, Liberators are better. And with 3 starports producing at a time, Cure is going to have map control. Sorry, he's going to have air and map control, air control. And the Liberators are just going to bully back the army of Kelazhur. It's going to turn into a fight for the Vikings, the fight for air superiority. We have 6 Vikings for Kelazhur against the 9 of Cure. On top of that, Cure is also working on ship weapons, air attack, so his Vikings will be better upgraded. Here we go. Kelazhur is pushing out. As he pushes out, the 4th base is under threat, and the 4th base will be killed. Kelazhur knows this. He does not turn around. 4th base will burn down, and Kelazhur is all in. He's going to be losing a tank. He's forced to pull the SCVs. He has to commit, but he's pushing into tanks and so many Vikings. How can he? As an entire mineral line is going down. Again, there's no turning back. All or nothing. But the Liberators have arrived. Tank lib. How do we push in? We can't. The freedom is here, papi. We're going to try and drop into the natural instead. Tanks are getting in position. Boys are being pulled. Marauders have arrived. And the Marauders will help clean this up. They take down 2 tanks. The Vikings try to push in, but Cure has so many Vikings and +1 air attack. Kelazhur cannot break this. He's trying. He has to. There's no other way about it. Across the map, Cure's been cleaned up. And Kelazhur does get on top of the 4th. He will take down the Planetary at least. Planetary does go down. Cure taking quite a lot of damage himself. Loses a couple of tanks. Quick on siege. Tanks do get out of range of those Liberators. Oof. So the tank does fall. Kelazhur, he still has a fighting chance. His economy is still in the gutter, but his main army still has potential. Oh, as we try to push in. Bold move. There's not a lot to protect these tanks. The boys have to be pulled, and Kelazhur, he's trying to break through. But the Vikings land. The freedom zones arrive, and Kelazhur cannot break through. He's going to be losing his army, losing his tanks. He did get 20 SCVs. But we have the Vikings waddling on forward. And the tanks can't stop them. The Vikings, papi. They waddle in. They're fearsome. They're terrifying. GG gets called, and Cure will take the series 2-0, advancing on to the semi-finals. GG. GG, well played. Congratulations to Cure. Shout out to Kelazhur again. He almost brought it back. He almost was able to recover after, I would say, a failed Proxy 2-Rax. The Proxy 2-Rax was lackluster and it didn't do much at all. After the early game, Kelazhur had fallen behind in the workers because of the Hellion harass. But he was able to catch back up. But then everything turned for the worst for Kelazhur when he moved out with his big push. And when a marine counterattack came in, killed the 4th and annihilated the mineral line, the 3rd base mineral line, just forcing Kelazhur all in. I don't think he wanted to be all in at that moment. GG. GG, well played. Congratulations to Cure. Congratulations, as he does advance on to the semifinals, and he is the 2nd player to advance on because we have some updates. We have some results coming on in.